The point of yoga isn't to force our bodies into an asana or a particular shape, but rather to find a way to make the asana fit our body. Today we're going to discover how to bring more joy and ease into our yoga practice by finding that sweet spot where the effort of a pose is perfectly balanced with the ease and softness we find there. So we're going to start this one on all fours. So making your way there, wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And we'll start with some wrist circles, having the fingertips spread nice and wide. And just checking in with how the wrists feel. If you've got blocks, feel free to come up onto those. That'll help just shift some of the weight back into your knees, taking it out of the wrists. Good, and you can start to notice what's happening with the breath. Maybe starting to slow it down a little bit. Maybe finding some sort of rhythm with your movement. Good, and if you haven't already, you can take those circles round the other way. Just notice how this feels in the wrists. These circles don't have to be huge, you can keep them fairly small. Good, and then bring yourself back to center. We'll start with some cat-cows. So moving with the breath, inhaling to drop the belly, lift the chest, look forwards. Exhale to round through the spine, head drops down. Pressing the ground away with the hands to really round through the shoulders. Good, inhaling for cow. Exhaling for cat. And then just move at your own pace here. Finding a rhythm that works for you. And just checking in with the body, noticing how this feels for you today. How do the shoulders feel? How does the spine feel? How are the hips? And there's no need to judge anything that you're feeling here. Really trying to practice simply noticing without judgment, without coming up with a story as to why your hips are tight, why your shoulders are sore. Just noticing, accepting. Just being curious as to the different sensations you can feel through the body as we move. Good, and then coming back to center, we're going to take the knees a little bit wider than hip width apart, walk the hands forwards, dropping the chest down to puppy pose. Forehead can rest on the ground if it makes it there. We'll just take a couple of nice deep breaths here. Keeping the arms active, hands pressing into the ground, elbows lifted. Good, and then lifting yourself back up to all fours. Bring the hands back a little bit, tuck the toes under, we'll send the hips high for downward dog. Pulling out through the feet. Keeping the fingers spread wide still. And make sure that you're breathing here. Good, and then maybe pausing in your downward dog, finding stillness here just for a couple of breaths. The knees can stay generously bent, tailbone reaching up towards the ceiling, pressing the ground away with the hands, really finding that length through the spine. Good, and then we'll start to walk the feet up towards the hands, coming to a forward fold at the top of the mat. Arms and head hanging down towards the ground, maybe having a sway from side to side, maybe taking hold of opposite elbows. and then coming back to center, rolling up through the spine. As you roll up, press the hips forwards, coming all the way up to stand. Take a couple of breaths here, take a second, let the blood flow back in the right direction. Notice how the feet are feeling, maybe noticing what sensations you can feel in the soles of the feet. Can you notice the texture or temperature of your mat? Good. And then we're going to turn this into a bit more of an active Tadasana, mountain pose. So starting with the feet, we're going to start to pull the feet away from each other, really engaging the legs, as if you're trying to split your yoga mat down the middle. So feet are pressing away. You might feel the legs really turn on here. Good, and then we're going to continue up, finding this lift up through the chest, chin comes parallel to the floor, and then grounding down through the back body, tailbone slightly tucks under. Good, shoulder blades drawing down your back. Take a breath or two here. Good, and then keeping the legs active, sweeping the arms up. We're going to interlace the hands, reach the palms towards the ceiling, stretch over to one side, up through center, over to the other side. Good, sweeping the hands back down. From here, shifting your weight into your right foot, we're going to lift the left knee up, hands can come to hips or wherever is comfortable, and then bring that left knee out to the side. We're going to come to tree pose. So finding where this left foot wants to go, you can bring the toes down, just resting the heel just above the ankle on the right foot. You can bring the foot to the calf or all the way up to the inner thigh. Find what works for you today. If you're having a wobbly day, the wall is always your friend, so feel free to put a hand there if you need. And just using this time to find actually which one feels the nicest or feels the most supportive for you today. You know, yoga isn't always about finding the easiest or the most comfortable position, but what is the one that feels the best option for you today? And then wherever you are, you can bring hands to hips, hands to prayer, or extending the arms up. And then while we're here, working at bringing this left knee out towards the left, finding that external rotation through the hip. Good, grounding down through the right foot, maybe lifting the gaze if you're feeling steady. And if you want a real challenge, you can try closing the eyes. If you fall over, come back in, or just hold here for 3 more big breaths. Good, finding that upward lift of energy, reaching up, up, up. Good, and then gracefully stepping back out. Just take a second here, notice the sensation through the left and the right side. And then you can give the legs a little bit of shake, maybe bring some circles to that ankle. Good, and then when you're ready, coming back to that active Tadasana, feet pressing down into the ground, and then start to pull them away from each other. Find that lift up through the chest, grounding down through the shoulders, slight tuck of the pelvis. Good, and then shifting your weight into your left leg this time. We'll start by actively lifting the right knee up, squeezing it up as high as you can, and then taking it out towards the side. And then you can find where you want this leg to go, even if it's bringing the toes back down to the ground, bring them to the calf or the inner thigh. Just notice if this side feels more stable, more wobbly, and again, really trying to notice without judgment. Just noticing and accepting whatever is going on for you. Good. Choosing where you want your hands to go. And then that added challenge, closing your eyes. If you sway, if you fall over, it's all good. Shake it off and come back in whenever you're ready. Really working to find that upward lift of energy. Grounding down through the sole of the foot, but then from there growing up through the standing leg, up through the pelvis, the waist, the ribs, the chest. Good. One more big breath here. And then as gracefully as you can, stepping that foot back down. Take a second here just to pause. Notice the sensation through the hips, the thighs, the legs, the feet. And then you can give everything a little bit of a shake if you want. Good. From here, step into the front of your mat and we'll start to flow. So reaching the hands up as you inhale. Exhale to sweep the hands down, coming to a forward fold. Inhaling here, finding a flat back position. Pausing here, maybe bending the knees a little bit here to find that length through the spine. Reaching the tailbone away, finding that slight lift through the chest. Hands can come to your shins, or if you can keep the spine long, you can keep the hands on the floor. Good. From here, planting the hands, stepping both feet back, either to plank or drop the knees down here for half plank. If you're in the full plank, just tucking the pelvis under, finding that engagement through the core. Even if you're in half plank, trying to find that length all the way from the shoulders through to the knees. So again, notice if your butt is sticking out like this, see if you can hug everything into center. Good. Take one more inhale here. And then exhale, slowly lowering all the way to the ground, seeing if you can move with control, building strength through the upper body. From here, pressing the pelvis into the ground, and then using the strength of your back, lifting up into cobra. So to start with, we're not using the hands, just seeing how high you can lift through the back muscles only. And then if you want a bit more, you can press into the hands, coming a bit deeper into that back bend. Good. Exhaling here. From here, tucking the toes under, pressing up either to all fours or plank, and then exhale, hips go high, downward dog. Take a few breaths here, and if downward dog isn't working for you today, feel free to come to child's pose or any restful position. Or if you just want a little bit less, feel free to come to puppy pose like we did at the start. Good. One more big breath here. And then option to reach the right foot up towards the sky, three-legged dog. And then everyone hugging that knee in towards the chest. And then we're going to take the right knee towards the left elbow and then drop the hips down. Spiraling open, so your left hip comes down to the ground. And then we're going to reach up and over with the right hand coming towards this side stretch. This left hand can kind of just cross the body, be down on the floor, or if you want to reach towards that extended foot, you can. Taking some nice deep breaths here. Keeping that extended leg active, foot flexed, thigh engaged, kind of trying to press the back of the knee down into the ground. Good, and then we'll come out of this one, bring that right hand just to the ground behind you, reaching up with the left hand. If you want to, you can bring the hips up here. And then exhaling, dropping the hips down if they're lifted. We're going to bring the hands back down to the ground, stepping back for downward dog or puppy pose if that's what you're taking today. Good, and then on your next exhale, stepping up for forward fold at the top of the mat. We'll take an inhale to lift halfway, finding that flat back position. Exhaling to fold. Inhale to sweep the arms back up. Exhale, palms to chest. Take a few breaths here. Maybe noticing the pace of your breath, noticing your heartbeat. Just pausing here, giving everything a chance to slow back down. Relaxing the shoulders, unclenching the jaw, ungripping the toes. Good, and then we'll take it onto the other side. So when you're ready, inhaling, reaching the arms up. Exhale to fold. Inhale for halfway. Exhaling, folding, planting the palms, stepping back for plank or half plank. Feeling strong here, pressing the ground away, finding that doming through the shoulders. Take an inhale here, and then with as much control as you can, slowly lowering down. And don't worry about it if you just flop to the floor, that's totally fine too. And then pressing the pelvis into the ground, lifting the chest, using the strength of your back. And then if you want a bit more, you can press into the hands. Good, exhaling back down. Feeling strong, pressing up to all fours or plank. Then taking it back, downward dog. Again, you've got those options. You can come to puppy pose. You can take a rest in child's pose or coming to lie on your back. Good, and then option here to lift up the left leg, three-legged dog, and then we'll squeeze that knee up towards the chest, take it over towards the right elbow, and then dropping the hips down. I'm just going to spin myself around, but you can stay as you are. So we've got our right leg extended, and then we're reaching up and over with the left hand, finding this side stretch. Keeping that extended leg active, foot flexed, back of the knee pressing down. Good, and then making your way out of this one. Left hand comes down, reaching up with the right hand. Option to stay here, or you can lift the hips up. Good. Exhale to come back out. Bring the hands down, stepping back for downward dog. Good, and then from here we're going to make our way to Malasana or Yogi squat. So you can either step or jump the feet up towards the hands. If that's not feeling great for you, you can walk the hands back towards the feet instead, and then drop the hips down. And then I know this one isn't nice for a lot of people. So if you're happy in Malasana, feel free to hang out here. But I'm just going to give you a couple of options, just in case Malasana doesn't feel great for you. So the first option is to come to sit down on the ground. We're going to keep the feet flexed, so just your heels are on the floor, with the knees bent and in as close to the body as is comfortable. To start with, we're going to keep the hands behind us, lifting the chest up, or you can hold on to the feet, but just notice here if your upper back is really rounded. See if you can try and pull the chest through the knees. If this feels like too much, just stay here with the hands behind, reaching the chest up towards the sky. Second option is to come onto the back, bring the knees in. You're going to hold onto the backs of the thighs and work towards shining the soles of the feet up towards the sky. And in this one, notice if your lower back is lifted away from the ground, seeing if you can work to bring the lower back down towards the ground and then bring the knees in. So feel free to pause the video if you want to have a play around with those. Otherwise, just making your way to which one feels best for you. Or just take one or two more breaths here. And if you're in this more traditional Malasana, It's fine to have the heels lifted, maybe bring the hands down for a little bit of support. The main thing we want to focus on is trying to keep this length through the spine, so chest open. Good. And then wherever you are, we're going to come down onto our backs. Hugging the knees in towards the chest, maybe having a rock from side to side. Just feeling into that massage down the back. Good, and then coming back to center, we're going to keep the knees together, let them fall over towards the right hand side, maybe extending the left arm out, and you can either rest that right hand just on the top of the left knee or extend it out towards the side. If it feels okay in the neck, you can turn the head to look towards the left. And just finding those places where you can soften, relaxing through the waist and the hips. Notice if you're clenching the jaw or gripping through the fingers or the toes. Just seeing if you can let that go. Letting the breath become soft. And see how it feels to let your body relax into this one a little bit more with each exhale. Good, take one more breath here. And then we'll bring the knees back to center, give them a hug in. And then whenever you're ready, you can let them fall over to the other side, finding your twist here. Again, just noticing on this side where you can let go those last little bits of tension. And notice if this side feels particularly different from the other side. Noticing without judgment. And that's easier said than done and takes practice. So don't worry if you catch yourself coming up with stories or thinking about the reasons why you're feeling a certain way. But we can use practices like this to help us just be in the moment, and noticing how our body feels, and just noticing those subtle changes as we hold these poses and move through the different postures. Because nothing is permanent, no bit of tension or tightness in the body will last forever. And through our yoga practice, we can just become more aware of those subtle changes that happen. Good, take one more last breath here. And then bring the knees back to center. And now it's up to you. You can come to Shavasana, so finding whatever reclined position works for you. Maybe stretching the legs out long, or you can bring soles of the feet together, knees go out wide, Supta Baddha Konasana. Or if it feels better, have the knees bent, feet a little bit wider than hip width apart, and knees dropping in towards each other. So just take a second, get yourself nice and comfortable here, because this is going to be our final posture. We'll just start to bring our awareness to our breath. You You might want to bring one hand to the belly, one hand to the heart. And we're going to take a short practice of what's known as 3-part breath. So we're going to start here by inviting the breath down into the belly. Seeing with each inhale if you can let the belly inflate. If you've got your hand there, noticing if the hand starts to lift up away from the floor and then comes back down as the belly draws back towards the spine on your exhale. Just take a few more rounds like that, breathing into the belly. And notice if any tension creeps into the shoulders, or if you start to clench the jaw or your tongue is tightly pressed up to the roof of your mouth. See if you can relax a little bit in those areas. Good. And then if you're newer to this practice, maybe just stay here practicing this belly breathing. If you're feeling comfortable with it, we can move on to the next part. So on your inhale, we're going to fill the belly like before, but then continue your inhale to fill the space between the ribs. Feel free to move your hands to this space if you need to. So belly fills, then the ribs fill, and then exhale, letting all the air go. Keeping the breath coming in and out through the nose if you can. Good. And in this reclined position, you might feel the back pressing into the ground as you feel the ribs. And that might be a slightly easier place to notice the breath and notice if you're breathing into that space. Good. And again, you're welcome to stay here or take it back a step, or we can move on to this final part where on our inhale, we're breathing into the belly, filling up the ribs, and then we're going to fill into the chest. So that's our 3 parts. Then letting all the air go on your exhale. Good. And now this can be quite challenging if you're new, so be kind to yourself. Just notice how it feels, what makes sense in your body, if you can identify these 3 different areas. And if you're more experienced with this practice, you can challenge yourself to see if you can, on your exhale, let the air go in the reverse order. So we fill belly, ribs, chest, and then empty chest, ribs, belly. So a few options, so just be aware of where you're working at today. Everything that we do here is a practice. We're just trying things out and noticing what things feel like in our body. So don't worry if things aren't happening perfectly, if it's a little bit frustrating. Good. And then when you're ready, you can let go of that practice. Just return to your natural rhythm. And if you have time, feel free to stay here longer, taking a Shavasana for as long as you want to. But I'm going to leave you here. So thank you so much for joining me today. And if you need a little bit more help in downward dog, if that's somewhere that you feel that you could use more ease in your practice, check out my downward dog masterclass. where I give you a bunch of tips and variations on how to make downward dog in particular a little bit more easeful and a little bit more joyful. So thank you so much for joining me. See you next time. Bye.